Yeah, here we go.
I'm Charles,
I'm Emmanuel.
and you are listening to
Blight makes right.
the original Legion of Everblight podcast. How you doing, buddy?
Another day in paradise. Actually,
Yep.
I'm sucking. I've been doing a lot of weightlifting lately, and leg day was yesterday, and I can barely walk. I'm actually
Uh,
sitting in a rolly chair, so when we're done with this, I can scoot my little butt out
oh
of here.
yeah, nice, nice. Like Claire, take care of me.
Yeah, just wheel me out, baby.
Yeah. All right. Well, I am super excited because the ATC lists are out, and there's
Woo!
all sorts of fun Legion shit to talk in here, not just like the ATC in general. But so listeners, if you're not familiar with the format, so the America's Team Championship is an event held in Milwaukee where the winner of the event, or the second place, if it's the winner is a Canadian team, for instance, hypothetical speaking, um, then that team will automatically be part of the American WTC, and they'll be going to 2019 WTC. And I am going. I'm going with the Houston boys. So former teammate Jeremy Lee. Happy to be playing with Mike Puryear, and also huge fan of David Smith, as you can tell from episode 2. But so we got a double Legion team, and then also get to meet a new lovely gentleman that I haven't met before. And I keep forgetting names because in our chat we've been all going by stripper names. So that's been very interesting. I'm like, no, I should, and I'm getting all confused as to who is who. But Kirk Dalton, I actually had it right in my head, but he's going by Thrust Valley, so that's
Oh my.
adorable. My stripper name's not up there yet, but when it is, I'm going as Chuck Naked. Naked spelled Nekkid, because that's just how I roll.
Well, that's probably just one of many stripper names for you, I'm sure. Like, it depends on which cosplay community we ask. They're right.
Yeah.
You mean Captain Strip a lot? Oh yeah.
The Summer Soldier.
Oh whoa.
All right, so okay, so let's talk about the ATC. So first off, just looking at the general faction overview, 27 Circle players, 21 Scorn players, 17 Menoth players, 14 Ret, 12 Legion, 12 Crix, 12 Mercs, 12 Grimkin, 10 Kador, 10 Crucible Guard, 6 Trolls, 5 Cox, 5 Signar, and 4 Minions. So seems like every faction is covered. There's none that got left out, right? Yeah, they're all in there somewhere.
That much circle makes me want to vomit.
Yeah, and there's some double circle teams in here. Pillars of Sight team with
No, thank you.
yeah, that sounds delightful. But let's switch down to some of the Legion stuff. So Legion of Everblight. Pretty interesting mix here. We've got 7 Kalos 1 players, 3 Animag 1 players, 3 Lilith 3 players, 3 Thagrosh 1 players, and then 1 of each. Absolonia 2, Ryas 1, Veil 2, Twins, Kalos 2, Lilith 1, Absolonia 1, and Thayana 2. And then much more skewed, 13 of the lists are Primal Terrors, 9 are Oracles, and 2 are Children of the Dragon. So, Emmanuel, what do you think of like the general Warlock breakdown? Do you think that's kind of what you would expect from Legion players?
I don't know what to expect from Legion players, especially in a team event, because we end up being like sometimes like the hard question, and sometimes we end up being the right answer. So I think it's interesting to see the mix.
Oh yeah. Yes. And so to the people enjoying in chat, yes, absolutely. Pillars of Salt and Line of Sight combined into Pillars of Sight. And nobody is sad about not seeing a lot of Signar. They were always the faction for me when it was like, you could have won that game like a half hour ago. And I'm like, you really have to punish Signar players. You got to make sure they hate themselves, right? When you beat a Signar player, you need to send them home to a drinking problem.
They have enough problems right now. Honestly, like leave the swans alone. They're
Yeah.
broken. Like they're like missing feathers now, and the gooseneck's all sideways, and they're like, we still play, I swear.
Come on, but you know, like the next CID or something is going to crank the hell out of Signar, and these days will be over, right?
Oh yeah, like
You
every time there's a new CID, we're gonna get crushed by it.
Yeah. Well, you remember at the beginning of Mark III, Crix wasn't good, and that was a short-lived glory days.
You know, I was just watching the Crix forums not too long ago, and somebody was commenting on how everybody thought Ghost Fleet was terrible, and now everybody's on the Ghost Fleet riding with the flag, and I'm like, basically, that's how it is.
Yeah. It's gonna. I was just listening to Chain Attack, and I really liked their top 5 list at the end, and it was like the top 5 reasons you would know that you this person is dabbling in Crix. And one of the things was like every time a new CID hits, they're just not worried about it. And it was like if they after every tournament they always go home happy. And I was like, yeah, that's pretty much Crix in a nutshell.
I just picked up a whole huge Crix lot too. Like, I mean, I thought 30 Banes back in the day was a lot. The guy was like, how many Banes? Oh, I have all the Banes.
Yes.
And so, super excited. I was walking around in my Thrall Life shirt today, feeling pretty good about life.
Shirt. All right, and if you guys are watching, I am drinking an Elysian Immortal, which I'll probably switch to a different beer halfway through this. We'll see. But if you are watching, I'd love to know what you're drinking. Emmanuel, are you drinking anything?
Hell no, I don't drink anymore, man. Like, I basically drink protein shakes after every meal. Does that count? Like,
That's probably for the best. I'm been working on all of my gym gear and getting back into working out because
don't get too cozy because my wife is working on her edible food, snacks for LVO, and we have an order of peanut butter chocolate chip Rice Krispies just for you. However, we're doing some crazy stuff this time that'll blow your socks off. So come hungry.
All right. Well, speaking of hungry, let's get back to the warlocks that we got. So
sure.
I think obviously Callus won, being 7 of 12 players. The only thing that I think is wrong with that is that it's not 12 of 12. Well, actually, I should say 10 of 12 because 2 teams have double Legion. So 10 people could have chosen to bring Callus 1, and then 3 of those people did not. And so you 3, I'm questioning your decision making because Callus 1 is badass. No. I think 7 out of 12, especially considering two of the players are on double Legion teams. I think that's about what you'd expect for Callus.
Well, and here's the thing, honestly, like Callus is amazing, Callus is wonderful, but I'm not riding the Callus train at all right now. Like if there was a day 1 champions and a day 1 masters like I thought there was, I wouldn't even bring Callus at all. But now I've got to figure out how to fit fucking crows in them or Rotwings into my bag.
Yeah, all of our cheap units like Grotesques and Rotwings. Like, why can't we have a mech thrall, right? Like that's just very slim. Like Incubi would be perfect. Like that kind of.
You know what it is we got the most transportable gargantuan out of all of them. Actually, probably out of all the huge bases in the Blightbringer. Like it's so con friendly. Makes up for never bringing the Archangel anywhere.
But I am gonna specifically call out Wolf and be like, dude, Callus, yo, Callus Wolf. Okay, but so let's go down the list. Animag at 3 of 12, I think is probably fair. Animag is still a strong caster. Spoiler alert, Animag is my off list. And there's a very reasonable chance that I won't play Animag at all.
Are you just gonna say that on like just put that out there? Like not even gonna keep that in the bag tricks.
And like, as a lot of people have said, I think Animag to some respect is solved, and compared to some of the other lists like Thagrosh 1 and Callus 1, I think are a lot more difficult to solve. And I don't think the meta currently has an easy way to shift to cover them. But Lilith 3 at 3 surprises me personally because I'm gonna admit I'm a Lilith 3 hater. I
We've had
don't.
this discussion.
Yeah, that's definitely one where like I see why people want to bring her, and I think she's one of the casters that's just like there are these hypothetical situations where Lilith 3 is great, and uh it's just like I just like when are you seeing these matchups? What magical world are you living in where you have a drop and like, oh, Lilith 3 is perfect into both of their lists? I just don't really see that happening. Um but that's me personally. Do you think Lilith 3 at 3 out of 12 players is about right?
Well, here's the thing: is that when I was looking around for a good pair for Animag and talking to a lot of the other top players, all of them were saying, "Oh, you should play Lilith 3. You should." And I do not own Lilith 3. Like
Let,
I'm on
let's
the same
okay,
bandwagon with you.
let's be specific. Pagani wanted you to play Lilith 3,
Okay,
right? Like
Pagani
let's
wanted
just
me to play Lilith
Pagani
3.
wanted you to play Lilith 3.
Neutralize wanted me to play Lilith 3.
Oh, I didn't
Um,
know that.
with JVM for anybody, I forget sometimes we don't go by Omnis and Bloodwrath anymore.
Yeah.
Um,
Newt.
so
Can we call him Newt?
Newt Scamander. Um, yeah, like I think it's reasonable. Like I understand why she's good, and her personal threat in this day and age can keep a lot of casters honest. But I agree with you, Charles. There's rarely a time where I look at that and think she's going to be perfect into both lists. Like I don't have any
Yeah.
worries dropping her, and I just don't own her because out of Battle Engine casters, out of all the, and I've played just about all of them, she excites me the least. There's just not a lot going on there.
Okay. So let's go down. Thagrosh 1 at 3. Here's my problem with this number. It should have been 5 or 6.
Yeah, at least.
I think Thagrosh 1 should have been played probably almost as much as Callus 1. I think your version is excellent, and I think there are slight tweaks. Like we were talking, there's a very strong possibility that going into LVO that I may be doing Callus 1 and Thags 1, playing a not quite your version, but like your Incubi model, I think is still something I'm going to be looking pretty heavily at going into LVO.
It's
So
paid off in a lot of games. I really like it, and I like that. I mean, we both talked about dropping in the Raptors, which is a great
mhm.
option.
Yeah, I think
So I'm excited to see how you do.
I think there's a lot of ways to play Thags. I think he can be a PT list, he can be a COTD list. Like you can probably play him in Oracles if you wanted to. And so I am surprised. I think Thagrosh is like right behind Callus in as far as competitivity is what I wanted to say, and I'm not sure that's a word. Competitiveness is probably the right phrase.
Hmm.
So that's what surprised me. I think you can play like David Smith's list, you could play your list, and then there's lots of other lists. And like Thagrosh probably has the most versatility in list design of all of our casters, and so that probably surprised me. Like I honestly wouldn't have been surprised if Thagrosh one had the most. I maybe a little surprised, but honestly, I think he should have been higher. Then when we go down the rest of the list, it's one-offs. Um, as I said, there's a Abby 2, a Rias, a Veil 2, a Twins, a Callus 2, a Lilith 1, an Absolonia 1, a Fiona 2. I'm a little surprised that we didn't end up with like a couple Veil 2 players or a couple Callus 2 players. I thought, maybe even a couple Lilith 1 or a couple Absolonia 1. I thought there'd be like a couple of those.
I'm really surprised not to see more Fayana players. Like it seems like she just disappeared from the meta.
Well, I think part of it is new hotness, right? I think
Yeah.
Legion like went really heavy into Fayana 2 for a while, and we kind of wanted to break from that. And I think having the right pair that includes her can be a little bit weird. And I think David's got that; it's right for his. But I think in a lot of cases, it just doesn't quite cover the matchups that a lot of PT lists then want help with. So that's not super surprising. But overall, I think it's a good mix. You got a lot of different casters represented. The only ones that like didn't slip in at all is what no Thags 2, right? Like didn't make it in at all. No Lilith 2, none of that. What other ones am I forgetting? I think that's excellent podcasting.
Is there a Lilith one on there?
Yeah, there's a
I think
Lilith
you said
one.
Lilith one.
Um, So no Bethane, no surprise there. No Krissa. And as I said, no Lilith 2, no
No, Krista
Saren,
is not
and
surprising
no
at
Rail
all.
1. And I think that's reasonable. I think having, for the most part, those. I wouldn't have been surprised if a Thags 2 snuck in. And I don't know what a good list for Lilith 2 would look like. I can at least see why someone would go Lilith 3 over Lilith 2, just like what they're saying in the comments right now. I think Lilith 2 might have a list, but there might be some pretty hard exploration to figure out what that would look like. But
Well, and the big reason that should always be asked is why. And that's the problem with a lot of these casters is they lack a why.
Sure. Okay, so themes. 13 Primal Terrors, 9 Oracles lists, and then 2 Children of the Dragon. For the most part, I think this is probably on point. There's not... I'm kind of surprised that we didn't see one Ravens list, 1 or 2 maybe. Because I still think that there is some game there. But to be honest, though, I think 9 Oracles is high. I think Oracles is not... I don't think Oracles is as good of a theme force as we sometimes think that it is. I think Primal Terrors and Children of the Dragon are probably better.
I agree.
Yeah. But I can see like Oracles from David's perspective for his Feyana 2 list. Like I like that pairing, right? Like that's a solid pairing. But there's a lot of situations I just don't think Oracles brings enough units for appropriate scenario play. So it may just have to fit into a specific play style, and maybe Oracles is... It's very weird. I used to be like the all beast all the time, where it's like my tray was just like 7 or 8 heavies, and then that was for both lists, and then solos, and then maybe like a spawning vessel. But now I'm like all these dudes. I'm like a Crix player. This is very strange.
I told you, Legion's the new Crix.
You're not wrong. I don't disagree. And yeah, Children of the Dragon is like a very restricted theme, but it has a couple of very strong lists in it. And I still think that it's a theme force that should be improved upon, but it still has some great lists in there. Okay, so let's just some random like entries. Have you looked at this list at all, Emmanuel? What do you think is the most played, the most copies of a particular model or unit overall across all of the theme forces, like, or all of the lists?
Gotta be Hellmouths.
Oh yeah, it's Hellmouth for sure. Like when I saw 25 Hellmouths across 12 players lists, that made me happy. Like I can just imagine Jay looking at that and gagging.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy about it. I wasn't even surprised when you confirmed it. I was just like, yeah, that there's no way it's anything other than that. I mean, people talk about how much of an auto include it is, and it really is a faction defining piece without a doubt.
Yep. And then we've got, 21 Shepherds, 19 units of Chosen across 12 players. Lots and lots of cavalry models. That's
all the beef.
Yep, very interesting. Okay, so let's go down and let's talk about some lists. I'm going to come back. I want to talk about Canada Beaver at some point because we have an actual WTC team going to this, and it is one of the Canadian WTC teams. And this is a pretty baller team, and I've looked through their lists, and I feel like my Callus list is advantaged into a lot of matchups, and their team is kind of like just scary. Just like the whole thing, like all 5 players. It's like, I want no part of this.
What are I can't wait to, do you want to just skip to it now, or do you want to come back to it?
No, we'll come back to that one. Okay, but let's talk about some of the Legion pairings. So in Team Dull Cheddar, I don't know what Dull Cheddar is in reference to. But it's, so we've got Thagrosh 1 in COTD and Lilith 3. And it was really funny. So starting this off going, Dude, I love this guy. He's starting off with Thag Rush 1 in COTD. He may not be running Incubi in there, but I do really like the list. Pretty standard Azrael, Typhon, Zuriel, double Shepherd, Kralix, double Spell Martyr, Hex Hunters with a free Bale, Raptors, and Ice Witches. I feel like that's a really like standard list. If you were looking to play Thags and like you could just jump right on that, it's a solid list. And they paired it with Lilith 3. So Archangel, double Carnivian, Bolt Thrower, Succubus, 3 Shepherds, a Sorceress on Hellion, a Forsaken, Pharaoh Valkyries, and Ice Witches. Like, I feel like this is definitely something where he wanted something that was going to be able to play into shooting matchups. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if, like, Andrew Cutter had something to do with this. This very much looks like my meta wants to shoot me to death. But I can see that. I would love if let's see, the name of the player is Randy Culp. Randy, if you listen or watch the show, I would love to hear some of your input as to why you wanted to pair Lilith 3 with Thagrash 1. And additionally, you went with no Primal Terrors. You're probably one of very, very few players in here that did not bring a Primal Terrors list at all. So I'm very interested to hear your thoughts if you have a chance to share any of that with me. Twitter, Facebook, Discord, whatever, hit me up. But I think it's very interesting. I'd be even more if he comes back and tells me that Lilith 3 is his main list, I'm going to be even more surprised and probably even more respect, because that's strange to me. But who knows? I don't know everything. So what do you think of those with that pairing? And for team reference, it's got a Circle player, a Troll player, a Crucible Guard player, and a Rep player. Good mix of factions there. Like, I think they have a lot of coverage. Overall, I like the team design. But what are your thoughts on those Legion lists?
I think it's interesting in that as a whole, people consider Legion disadvantaged into a lot of shooting matchups, and both of his lists are good into shooting matchups. So he can walk either direction. Like, does he need to be able to crack the armor, or does he need to be able to clear troops? And then if you look at his team, like, there isn't a huge representation of factions that also want to deal with, gun lines as well. So I think that maybe as a team, he looks at that and goes, okay, I think we can do this. Legion can cover it for you.
Yep. I really want to move into this like troll Lilith 3 mode, and I don't know why, because I don't hate her that much, but I kind of want to play it up. And you're just like, both of his lists are good into shooting matchups. I'm like, well, Thagrosh 1 is good.
I like Thagrosh 1 in the shooting matchups a lot. I think that his feat can work a lot like Abby 1's feat, to where they just commit to something, and then you just say, all right, well, you committed to that thing, I get back. And then you deliver other things because of his feat. And in Call of the Dragon specifically, there's just a lot of tools in there that also advantage into shooting matchups. And then you look at like Lilith 3 and the Pharaoh Valkyries and everything else, and goes, he can play that in a shooting too.
For sure. Okay, so let's move on to another team. Hey, watch this. I kind of wish they had like the area that the teams were from. That would be kind of cool to see. So it's got a Circle player, a Legion player, a Cater player, a Trollbloods player, and a Grimkin player.
Ooh.
I think
that's a scary team.
Yeah. I think it's a lot of beef. I'd have to look through the lists like in more detail, but
it's a lot of really killy factions too, like lots of murder.
Outside of Circle, I feel like they have like 4 almost like brute force factions, and then a little less finesse. Like, and I don't mean that in any insulting way. They're just like, even like right now, a lot of Legion lists, like back in the day, they were more finesse lists, and I feel like a lot of our lists now are a little bit more brute force, and that's fine. But it's sometimes when you see a team that's really heavy on the brute force, where it's just like it was kind of like when America won the WTC. I felt like America that year was playing a shit ton of brute force, just like boom in your face, like we're gonna fucking rock you. I think I went too much finesse that year, but that's just a side note. Okay, so his pairing is Rias 1 and Animag. So Rias is what's the theme for us? Rias and Primal Terrors, Nerif, Rake, Zuriel, Amak. 2 War Chiefs, Warmongers with Rotten Eye, 2 units of Chosen, double Hellmouth. Very interesting. I do think that Rias has game in Primal Terrors, and it's worth exploring. I'll admit that's one spot, even though I'm kind of off the Blightbringer kick. Um, I will say that I definitely like the idea of Blightbringer being able to crank up Rias's output, because one of the things that I always struggled with when I tried to play her is like you want to get work out of Rias, and I felt like you always needed to soften something up for Rias, right? She just couldn't quite kill something consistently with enough to camp and live after sprinting. And I think the Blightbringer's buffs could be that thing where it's easy to just like get you in the aura. Now she can murder something and flee away. But ended up with a bit more of a finesse battle group. But otherwise, I like the general design of the list. And then Animag going no Blightbringer. And as much as I am off the Blightbringer chain, I will say Animag is one where I feel like Animag Blightbringer 100%. Like, I don't feel like Animag supports the other beast well enough. But so they went with Golab and Nerif. Obviously, I'm a fan of Golab and Nerif, so don't get me wrong. But then with Amik, Maximus, I think that's kind of cool. War Chief, and then a unit of Warmongers with Gorag, 2 units of War Spears, and 2 units of Chosen. But both of the War Spears are min. Both War Spears and the Warmongers are min. Because I was like, for a second, I was like, that's a shit ton of dudes. Does that really fit? Is that why they're not playing the Brightblingers? Because they got 5 full units? I'm like, oh, okay, they're mins. Like, that's why it didn't make sense in my math head. And then they also only have 1 Hellmouth. Again, I would love to talk with Charles. I'm a fan of anyone by Charles, let's be honest. Especially Charles Foster. Dude's legit. But I gotta say, I would tweak the fuck out of these if I were going to try to play this pairing. But I do think it's an interesting pairing, and they're going double PT. What are your thoughts, Mr. Class?
I really like Rias and PT. I think we had that discussion really early on as I was exploring through the different PTs. I found the same.
I mean, you are Rias, so it would make sense that you would want to play Rias.
Clearly. It was actually playing the twins that made me think about playing Rias. So I played the twins with the Blightbringer and PT and thought, I really like what the Blightbringer does for Rias. But that pair the Warcaster relationship was really weird, and I just wasn't like digging it super. But then I thought, man, Rias won with the Blightbringer. There was a lot there. I really like that, and it also gives her a place to go and hide behind. So I think it's really interesting. The other list, I agree. I think there's a lot of room for improvement. Nothing against the list, nothing against the player, and it may also be matchup dependent where he's looking at covering specific things for the team. But Maximus just seems like a really weird choice.
Yeah, I don't know what that thought is there. The one that gets me the most is the second War Chief with Rias. Should be Gudrun. Like, even if you can completely convince me of every other thing in that list, you have 1 unit of Warmongers. You don't need more than 1 War Chief. That 5 points is better off as Gudrun. Like,
well, here's the thing with the War Chief, right? So it's going to benefit from the feat, and it's going to benefit from the +1 speed. So when it comes to delivering a berserking model at mat 8 behind enemy lines, those things are great. So
okay. You've sold me. I can see the benefit, but I still want. Maybe it's my scenario game, right? Like I want that, like a really strong soul.
I don't think that list is playing scenario, man. That list does not strike me. It's like the Thunderstruck. It's just like it's coming in and it's like, boom, deal with that. Can you deal with that? Did you deal with that? If you didn't deal with that, I won.
I feel like this list should be nicknamed Time Warp. Like, I feel like I just imagine Tim Curry standing over you during the Rias 1 feat turn, just like, I'm doing the Time Warp, as Chosen just start fucking teleporting all over the place.
Bloop, bloop, bloop.
But yeah, okay, super fun there. Okay, Lunicorns is Menoth, Legion, Crucible Guard, Mercenaries, and Scorn. And so we've got David Bergstrom rocking a Callus 1 list. Pretty classic, except instead of Gudrun, which would be what JVM's list would run, he's got a Feral Geist, a second Spell Martyr, and Swamp Gobber Bellows crew. So interesting. I think that's
Legit.
potentially like a good tweak. One of the things when I was experimenting with that version is I did feel like JVM's was about perfect, but I could see this being an equally strong version of it. It gives you a couple more options. I could see why someone would like that. And then he paired it with twins in Oracles, going Carney, Naga, Seraph, Zuriel, 2 Sorceress on Hellions, Hex Hunters with Bale, and then Double Throne. And so definitely interesting. The Hex Hunters are min, so I do think twins deserve some love. I like Seraph being able to extend the threat range of Rias. They have access to a lot of good animi, Spiny Growth, and Wraithbane, and I think that in general the twin spell list is not fantastic. So when they get to blow that on amazing animi, that's great. I think Thrones are great with them. Overall, like I dig the pairing. Like I think twins could definitely be a pairing for Callus. I think he's brought one of the stronger Callus lists with some minor tweak, which just says something about the player in general. David is willing to, even though it's a small tweak, I think anytime you see someone tweaking, for what fits how they want to play it, I think that those subtle decisions, like having the Swamp Gobbers to potentially like drop a cloud in front of Callus, like that could win him a game.
I
Right?
really want to talk about that. That's my favorite thing out of
Yeah.
both his lists. So it gives him a couple options. The first being that, and I do this a lot. So I will use my Blightbringer's aura to shoot into a forest so that my Cav can get both the benefit of the armor and concealment, right?
Yeah.
And so being able to grant that in the next to the Blightbringer and say, okay, here's a huge area that blocks line of sight between my Blightbringer and this cloud that Callus can operate behind. And if I need to, I walk into the cloud and I become really high defense and high armor. And it's very trappy because it's like I do that, plenty of times with Animag where she'll camp 3 or 4 and be like, you want to absorb a couple shots? Because I'm fine with pawning it to the Harrier.
For sure. For those watching the show live, if you have questions and you want to ask us like a specific thought on any of these lists as we go through it, feel free to ask. Like we're just experimenting. We love talking about Legion lists in general. I mean, screw the other factions, really. Like they're just there for us to create tiers. But anyway, I dig it. I'm really excited to see how what matchups and stuff they go for. Like if I had the choice, I would talk with every single one of these players after the event and be like, oh, what did you play into? Like, was this something where you wanted to do it for your team? Was this what you thought was an advantage matchup for you? Like, and then what did that matchup end up being what you thought it would be? Like, I just think all of it's so fucking interesting.
Totally.
So, okay, next team, made for TV drama, Circle, Legion. There's a lot of Circle, Jesus Christ. Scorn, Crix, and Protectorate. This is very close to what I was originally considering. He's doing Callus and Veil 2. Callus, pretty close to normal, but so he's doing Brightbringer Amok, forgoes the Harrier, so that he can have an Ogryn Bokur, triple Spell Martyrs, and then Rotwings, Double Chosen, Hellmouth. So, very, very interesting.
I wonder who he chooses his client for the Bokur. If it's like, that's really interesting. Because like in some matches, it seems like it would be good to put on Emma to like deliver him up so he can like unbinding or like say remove Incorporeal off a Wraith Engine or something. It seems like it would be great to get Callus up the board to really use Dark Guidance.
For sure. I keep wondering. Yeah, it's. I mean, Callus can get by without the Harrier more so than some of the other casters because he automatically heals back 1d3, so he can cut for 1 to 2 a turn without as much issue, but not having that free transfer target and not being able to stick a Harrier in those key zones, I do think is a concern. But again, I'd be very interesting to see how the Bokur does, because I think being able to shunt off key shots from even the Chosen, or like there have been times where I remember like playing against Rhett and I'm like wanting to like Death Stalker and like just murder a bunch of infantry, and when they have shield guard dudes spread out, where it's like, well, now it's not even that I only get to kill one, I literally do nothing because I can shoot and auto point a shield guard and then do nothing.
Well, and it
And
could be
so
really good in key matches, like against Crucible Guard with Dragon Breath rockets. You know, being able to
yeah,
shunt off some of those shots from the Blightbringer or something would be
yeah.
really key.
Well, also just being able to have the Boker run up and protect the Hellmouth, like
Yeah,
against specific shooting turns, like that can be a huge deal as well.
interesting.
Um, okay, so and then he paired it with Veil 2 in Oracles, Scythian, Seraph, Nis Sorceress on Hellion, Double Forsaken, Black Frost Shard, and 2 Thrones. I feel with triple Scythian, there might be some I want to ignore tough.
A little bit.
Right. But it's interesting. Obviously, I'm not a fan of the Black Frost Shard, but I can see why in Veil 2 you want to like kind of crank up the, the damage output of the list. But it's interesting. I'd be really curious to ask him why triple Scythian. Like, even if he felt like Scythian, because Scythians don't get to see a lot of play right now anyway. I'd be very interested to see why felt that all 3 of them should be in the list. And maybe it was just a points thing where he just couldn't afford the Scythians. Or sorry, he chose the Scythians because he couldn't afford the Carnivians.
It's possible. I mean, they also have reach, and they can also kill a lot of troops. So maybe it's like an anti-troop list.
Maybe an assassination thing, because just projecting a different kind of assassination where obviously she threatens with the spell assassination, but you have to be very careful about a boundless charged murderous Scythian will fucking kill you.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So moving on, we could talk about my team a little bit, but it's double Legion, Scorn, Protectorate, and Grimkin. I do really like the mix of players. It's weird for me to think of Jeremy Lee as a Grimkin player, because I still in my heart and soul like Jeremy's a Crix player, but it happens.
Grimkin are basically Crix.
Yeah. Well, Grimkin is almost kind of like old school Legion, where you got like, I just manifest destiny a million heavies. Like,
yep.
You don't see their infantry as much, but we don't need to go into my team that much. I'm looking forward to really going through the pairing process with my team. I think it'll be very interesting to see what we want to take, but I do feel like we've got some good coverage between the lists, so I'm excited. Very excited. This is going to be fun. Okay, Mid-Atlantic Molly Whoppers. So we got a Primal Terrors Callus 2 list, Golab, Rask, Scythian, Amok, Warchief, Warmongers and Rotten Eye, Double Chosen, Double Hellmouth. Cool. I dig all of that. I think Scythian's a pretty crazy overrun target. You got Break for delivering fire into crazy places. Golab is amazing. I like the general package of units. I think that's a strong mix. Then he paired it with Callus 1 in PT. And then he's playing classic JVM style Callus 1. I think this is a very, very strong pairing. And this is something I could easily see myself doing. Callus 2 was definitely in my consideration. I could easily see this being like a strong go-to Legion pairing. And I think double Primal Terrors is almost overlooked in some cases, where people feel like, oh, you diversify. And it's like, no. How about you just fucking murder them? And I feel like that's what this does. It's just, you have 2 styles of murder, and they're both great. Your thoughts?
I agree, and I like his Kalas 2 list. I think it's interesting. I think it also has a lot of tough hate. There's a lot of there's a reoccurring theme here that we're seeing a preparation to just hate the fuck out of tough.
Well, I mean, really, if there's something that you were going to hate and it's not Signar, it should be tough.
Yeah, for sure. Um, I think it's a pairing to watch out for too. Like Callus can potentially cover a lot of the troop heavy matches that maybe Callus 1 doesn't. I guess I should specify. Callus 2 catches a lot of the troop heavy matchups that maybe Callus 1 doesn't want to catch anyways. So it's good. It's a good meta pairing.
One thing I do think of as a weakness with these is I think he definitely probably has to avoid the Ret matchup. I think Gorshade 4, most of the teams that have Ret are bringing Gorshade 4, and I'm not sure either of his lists are good into that. But I mean, this is a team format, so you don't have to be good into everything. And that was one thing I wanted some more guns in my Callus 2 list, or whatever my off list was going to be if I needed to cover Gorshade 4. Stuff that could shoot through the clouds and soften up the army a little bit. So, wasn't as much of a like pure time walk situation. Clouds plus his feet. Fuck Gorshade 4. He should have come to Legion.
They should have come to Legion.
Yeah. Okay. Next team, Midwest Express. They've got Ret. They've got Legion. They got Ret again. Double Ret. Ugh. Signar and Crix. And then he's doing Lilith 3 with Callus 1. Callus 1 is pretty close to standard, but he swapped Gudrun for Gremlin Swarm and Goblin Bellows Crew. Another potential cloud in front of Callus. I like that. Gremlin Swarm is still super annoying. I think that's a totally reasonable change. And then pairing it with Lilith 3, we already know how I feel about Lilith 3, but let's look at the list. Archangel, Naga, Bolt Thrower, Rake, Succubus, Triple Shepherd, 2 Sorcerers and Hellions, a Gremlin Swarm, a Spell Martyr, Feral Valkyries, Ice Witches, and Throne. Obviously, that's Oracles. Definitely feeling like this. I feel like this is a cutter list. I'm going to just call them cutter lists. Very concerned about playing into some ranged matchups. Again, it's a lot of like anti-ranged hate. My problem in general, like I'm going to feel like a broken record by the end of this. I just have a hard time looking at any 2-list pairing and going, I want to drop this Lilith 3 into that. Maybe I'm just not a good Lilith 3 player, but what are your thoughts on the lists?
There's probably a matchup specifically that they want Lilith 3 for, that they're going, okay, if you guys don't feel comfortable with that, I think I can drop Lilith 3 into it.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, I don't know, like, I don't think I'd want to play it into Circle, like, which is one of the things where I like to threaten Kruger with guns to make sure he has to cast Stormwall, because when he doesn't have to cast Stormwall, good God, does that guy get frustrating. But I don't know. That'd be interesting. I'll probably check the pairings and stuff afterwards and see. So it's Anthony Urkel. I'd be very curious to see what he plays, and maybe he just plays Callus 1 all day. It would not surprise me either.
Okay. Maybe it's to scare them away from matches he doesn't want to play Callus 1 into.
Yeah. I mean, it could be Menoff. Like, maybe he's just thinking, like, doesn't want to get screwed by Double Judicator and that sort of thing.
Possibly.
All right. So, Nickel City Nimrods. That's a cool team name. They're doing Menoff with Legion. Actually, this is the other double Legion team. So Double Legion, Scorn, Grimkin, and as I said, Protectorate. So we've got Mike Garbarini. That's a cool name. So he's got Fagrosh 1 in Oracles with Callus 1. This guy, his heart is in the right place. Man, if I were walking on a double Legion team and I was like, you're going to let me take Fags and Callus? Wow. But, okay, so his Thagrosh 1, obviously it's Oracles. So Carney Typhon, he's got Double Thrones, a Shepherd, a Sorceress on Hellion, Bogtrog Misspeaker, Forsaken, Min Hex Hunters with Bale, and then Valkyrie as Ice Witches. Okay, cool stuff there. I can dig it. Multiple good animi for Thags, and then it's paired with slightly different Callus PT list. It forgoes Spell Martyrs completely, and it's taking the War Chief um, as the free model instead of Amok, so it gains a point, and then it's got Feral Geist as well. So pretty cool there. You don't have any Spell Martyrs, but you still get a Feral Geist, and you end up sneaking in a War Chief, which can potentially be another map buff for the Chosen. So that's kind of cool. I think that's a very interesting techie choice. But overall, I think this is a strong pairing. It's not necessarily a Thags one list that I would rock, but I can see I like all the decisions in here. Lots of interesting pieces. I would be very interested in watching that get played. What about you, Mr. Class?
I love the War Chief. I think he's an excellent piece. I use him all the time. I like that. Like for example, in Animag, he's given a +1 even on my spells. I've had a lot of games where I mean, just his hardiness alone as a solo, it's underestimated. Like yeah, you're like I don't want to sit that 5 points solo on the flag, and sometimes in games he's just as good as running. What's his name, Gudrun. And in other games, he just has more versatility and usefulness. You know, he clears troops, or he hits something real hard, or he's giving that crucial +1. So I think it's a good choice.
Yep. And just as pointing out in the chat, this is Wolf's team, so I gotta troll him a bit. So the other Legion player, Ryan, who decided not to take either of the best Legion Warlocks and decided to go with Animag and Absalonia 1. Pretty classic Animag list. Blightbringer, Harrier, Amok, Feralgeist, Triple Spell Martyrs, a War Chief, Warmongers with Rotten Eye. He diverges a little bit. Min, Rotwings, a Max Warmongers, a second unit, and then 1 unit of Chosen. So slightly different, slightly off base a little bit. And then he pairs it with an Absalonia 1 Oracles list. Angel, Carnivian, Harrier, Proteus, Shepherd, Sorceress, 2 Forsaken, Pharaoh Valkyries, Ice Witches, and Throne. I think Valkyries and Ice Witches is a little bit too much support for my preference. But I mean, I like both of those units, so I don't blame him there. And it does get him a second unit for zones, which can be one of the problems with Oracles. Emmanuel, where are you at with Wolves? I feel like I haven't trolled him enough.
I think that Abby is a good answer to potentially guns, and if he's not like super worried about the anti-healing on the Chosen and also on Abby, having lots of heavies gives him a very diverse option away from his Animag list. So I think it's interesting. Plus, his Abby list with Proteus in there can probably keep people a little more honest than the Animag list can. So it gives him something to threaten midline casters.
Yeah. So I'm gonna put words into Wolf's mouth. Right. I'm gonna make a proclamation for him. He is such a good Legion player that he doesn't need Callus or Thags, and he's gonna go 5-0 without the 2 best Legion Warlocks.
Probably.
That's his thinking. I'm gonna just make it canon right now. That's what Wolf is thinking, and he's gonna prove us all that he is just that good. He doesn't need Callus or Thags.
Do it.
However, I'm not that good. I need Callus and Thags.
Preach.
Okay, so let's swing down to the St. Louis Syndicate. They've got Legion with Circle, Scorn, and Mercs. Oh, Kurt's going. I didn't even realize he was going. Old WTC teammate. I'm looking forward to seeing that guy again.
Kador player, Kurt?
Yeah, but he's playing Mercs in this one. But yeah, he was Kador on my team.
I like him.
Yeah, super sweet dude. Lilith 3 with Absalonia 2. He's going double Oracles.
Ooh.
This is obviously outside of what I think should be done. But I would say pretty classic Lilith 3 list: double angel, Carney, Naga, bolt thrower, Seraph, triple shepherd, 2 sorcerers and Hellions, a Forsaken, and a throne. I worry that might not actually be enough Fury management for her. Like, her beasts spend, and she can't reap that much. With Absalonia 2 Nephilim soldiers, a Proteus, a Seraph, 2 Blight Wasp, 2 Angels, Forsaken, double Sorceress on Hellion, and Shepherd. Man, I kind of feel like if you want to run Absalonia 2 and you're planning to run 2 Nephilim soldiers, why not play Children of the Dragon?
I was just thinking that same exact thing.
Right. Wait, doesn't Children of the Dragon doesn't actually let you take Forsaken, does it? That can be rough
No,
for her.
you have to take the shepherds.
Yeah. So yeah, that's probably why. It's just not enough Fury management. But I was just thinking, ooh, like if you like the Nephilim soldier, which I do not, but if you liked him and you wanted to play him with Absalonia 2, it kind of feels like Children. Yeah, maybe we just need to throw Forsaken into that theme force.
That theme force. So if they like drop the points on the character heavies and threw Forsaken in, it would probably be even more manageable as like a top Legion tier.
Yep. Okay. Let's move down. Trolls from Felix's basement. Best team name or best team name ever?
It depends on Felix's basement.
Oh yeah. I hope there's some torture devices. Mercs, Circle,
Whoa,
Crucible
whoa!
Guard, Troll Bloods, and Legion. Thinking like Iron Maidens and shit. I mean, what else
Like
do you put in your basement?
I'm thinking maybe this guy's got like a cannabis grow in his basement, and you're like torture,
Oh,
torture them motherfucker. Like
oh.
you're a full-time Legion player. I must be like only part-time in it.
I feel like Absalonia has Iron Maidens in her basement. She was, invites people over for fun.
I collect salty tears. Charles collects actual tears.
Yeah. So side note anecdote. Have you ever played the phone game Heyday?
No.
Okay, you it's a total time waster game, and you build a farm, but the game has this algorithm that basically intentionally tries to make your quests essentially always be things that you can't make just yet. Like you're waiting to have your thing built that can make the thing that you need. So it's trying to encourage you to like spend to like speed it up the process. But then there's this guy Tom, and what he does is just like once every 2 hours, he'll just go find some shit for you at a good price. And he's amazing. And you get him for like 3 days for free, and then you'd have to pay for him past that. But he does this thing where when he's out of use and then the 2 hour time periods where you can't use him, he's like taking a nap. And there's a little dream bubble above his head. And when he's dreaming about like cakes and pies and that sort of thing, you're like, oh, the poor kid's hungry. Like, I totally understand that. When he's dreaming about saws and axes, I'm like, you're a creepy fuck. What's your plan? Are you going to murder me in my sleep? Jesus, Tom.
I feel like I should make an Uncle Tom joke here, but this close to MLK Day, it doesn't feel right.
Yeah. But that's where the Iron Maiden reference in the creepy basement was leading me.
Oh.
Okay, so in Trolls from Felix's Basement, Children of the Dragon, Lilith 1, Azrael, Bolt Thrower, Zuriel, Succubus, Anissa, Triple Shepherd, Kralix, Spellmartyr, Double Raptors with Ice Witches.
Woo! That's a fucking fire list.
That's cool. Like that list would scare the shit out of me just from the impression of like that list kills casters.
That's a lot of boosted guns.
Yeah, that's hella guns. And then pairs it with classic Callus 1. I think I'm almost surprised that we didn't see more of this, where it's like Callus 1 can crush most things. You have a strong assassination list that also plays well into the Primal Terror's mirror. I think this is a very natural progression, and I think going forward, something like this I think is a very common Legion pairing. And I think the guy's name is fuck, I don't. It looks like a French name.
He's like, fuck, I
I
don't
don't.
know.
I'm so terrible with French names. This is not my fault. I'm gonna call him Frank. Um, Frank, because I've been watching Punisher season 2, so that's a compliment, dude. You're Frank. I dig this. I think this is a great pairing. I like what he brings. And I would honestly, I'd love to have him on the cast and talk about how it goes, and he can tell me how to call him something besides Frank.
I think it's really interesting. You know what else is interesting about this pair? It is a champions pair.
Ooh, I bet that's crossed his mind because it works in both formats. So no, it's a solid pairing. He's got a strong team. I'm very interested to see how this goes. Okay, so that's the extent. That's all the Legion lists. So in general, like, what do you think? Legion players know what's going on. They're prepared for the
Wait.
meta.
Did we talk about the Canadian team yet?
Canadian does not have a Legion team. We'll still talk about them, but they don't have a
What?
Legion player.
Man, now I don't even care. We can end it right here. You got a blight mix right moment, Charles?
You're handling the blight makes right moments.
Oh man,
Um,
I have some good ones.
okay, but let's. So the Canadian WTC team that's coming. You got Chris Dalton playing Circle, Chris Danix playing Grimkin, Matthew McWaters playing Scorn, Charles Soong playing Scorn, Tim Banky, one of my favorite fucking people on the planet, not named Emmanuel, playing Protectorate. And I'm going to be honest, I've looked through their lists. It's a scary fucking 10 lists.
What is Banky playing in Protectorate?
As you'd expect, Harbinger and High Reclaimer.
Of course.
Yeah, so 2 baller ass lists that I want no part of. It's funny because like I would love to play a game against him because I don't think I've ever actually played against him, but he's one of my favorite people in the world. But I want no fucking part in this. Like,
okay, so what are
his
some
list
other
scares the
lists
shit out
you're
of me.
like, fuck that?
So normally I like the Grimkin matchup, but Chris Danix brought King of Nothing also in Dark Menagerie. So it's triple Cage Rager, 4 Krabbits, 2 Gorehounds, 3 Skin and Moans.
That's a lot of beef.
And it's a Cloud Wall caster. So yeah, that's a slight concern. I feel like it's a matchup I could play, but it's not it's not
It's
as
not the one you
advantaged.
want.
It's not as advantaged as I'm used to with Callus One. Because he's not going to drop Dreamer into me. He would drop King of Nothing almost for sure. And I think we would just have a hell of a game. But if we happen to play this team, that's one of the matchups where I'll be like, it's a game. Like I don't know what way it would go, but I will play my damnedest. And then the Scorn players, I thought this might interest you. So no knows all 2. 2 of them, Mac 3 with Zadesh 2. And then Soong has Xerxes 2 and Morgul 2.
Wow. I totally support Xerxes too. That's my boy.
Yeah.
I think he's amazing. And with all the changes to Masters of War now.
Yeah. I think what's interesting is I do think the Morgul 2 list is tweaked a little bit to be able to cover Primal Terrors. But I think of all of the 5, like if I had to make a choice right now, I mean, Charles Soong is a fantastic player, so don't bring this as a slash on him. But I feel like matchup-wise, I feel like I'm stronger into Charles, so we could have the Charles mirror. That would be fantastic. But I would probably not want to play against Banky, and I don't know. His lists aren't like as completely just screw me. So if I needed to play it, like I still think it's a game, but I think he's advantaged there, and he's got a lot more practice in Mark III than I do. So I definitely give him the advantage.
And he's also just an ace. Like that dude can play.
Yeah, for sure. And then the other is the Chris Dalton playing Circle is Iona 1 and Kruger 2. Which I think are both challenging matchups, very dependent on the scenario and the board setup. But there's no From a pure list perspective, I think the only one that I might actually be advantaged into is Charles, and maybe he disagrees. But I think his lists are geared for something slightly different, and you don't have to cover everything in this format. So I think it's pretty reasonable that I probably wouldn't play him because I think he's probably more prepared for other things. But I could totally just lose to him because he's got more experience than me. Dude's legit. But I actually kind of hope that we get to play against Canada Beaver because that would be fun as hell. They're just fantastic players, and even if I get absolutely crushed, I feel like I would learn a lot from it, which is kind of the most important thing. It's really easy to go into tournaments expecting and like putting it all on winning, but for me, it's definitely I want to go into the tournament, I want to learn, and I want to come out of it a better player. And I feel like if I got a round against Canada Beaver, I would come out of it a better player, even if I got wrecked. Especially if I got wrecked by Charles when I said that he would be my first choice of the 5, and he wrecked me, I would learn a lot.
That would be excellent. No offense to you, not that you just to like come back on the podcast and be like, Emmanuel, remember that match we were talking about?
Oh, yeah.
We need to revisit this.
Yeah, for sure. But it'll be exciting. We're only like a week out from this. A little bit more than a week. But I'm gonna get some practice games in this weekend, get me all warmed up, and I'm excited to roll out on this, and hopefully get to run into some of these other Legion players at the event. I'm a little sad that you're not going. It would be cool to have you.
Should have got me on a team.
Yeah.
I mean, you're the one with all the connects.
I wasn't expecting to be on a team. This is random, and
So
I think they're just like, yeah, we can carry on this. It'll be fine.
Well, either way, I mean, you got Mike Purrier on your team, you
Yeah.
got David on your team, you got a stacked ass team. So, I mean, you guys still have a really good chance. I'm excited for you. LVO's right around the corner. I'm gonna get to hug you in person.
Yep.
So
We're only a few weeks out from that. So, oh man, so I'm just excited. Like ATC and LVO. Like, remember when we were like, we started talking about like, okay, we're not going to do War Machine Weekend. It's too soon, but we're going to plan for LVO. We are now hitting that point. We are right around the corner. LVO is right around the corner. I'm going to have 5 great games like 2 weeks before. I always love that. Like, even if this does not go fantastic for me, I feel like I'm going to learn a lot. It's going to prep me for LVO. But man, if I know that Canada Beaver is the favorite team, but man, fucking when you got David Smith and Jeremy Lee and Purrier on the same team, and if they're playing, Kirk Dalton has been playing with them, like there aren't bad players that come out of Houston. Like those guys just know how to raise players. So I'm sure they're fantastic, and I'm sorry that they had a player drop, and I'll do my best to fill in for them and play a strong game. I would disagree with the chat. I don't think Team Conflict Chamber is favored, as even Jay himself has said. Canada Beaver is favored, and while Pagani is an amazing player, I'm not sure how much actual practice he has had outside of a lot of CAD testing. And you'd be amazed what that can do to your mindset when you like can't remember which rules models have because you've played them with so many different spells and variations. Pagani may be one of the best players in the world, but you do have to be practicing regularly in the normal format. But yeah, I think it's reasonable. They have a lot of strong players on that team. When you have Keith Christensen, Jay, and Pagani all on the same team,
that team is stacked.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I mean, that's 3 pretty famous names, but we'll have to see. It was funny when the Houston guys asked me to be on their team and Pagani announced that he was quitting like a day or 2 later. I was like, boom, I'm getting kicked off. They're like, they're gonna grab Pagani now. Like it's gonna be Houston. Like I was totally ready to just be like, man, they're not gonna need me now. And then when I was talking with Pagani, he's like, actually, like I've got this team thing going on. So I actually knew that that team was coming, but I had no idea what they're playing. It's gonna be great to see everybody. I haven't seen most of these people in forever. I have seen Pagani more recent because I'll just run into him at mocks, but it'll be great to see everybody. Just not you. We're a few more weeks out from that. Got to save the best for last. But do you want to Blight Makes Right moment for us to close things out?
I do. Actually, you know what? I think it came up in the Legion chat, or in the Legion Facebook group the other day, and I asked, I was like, Charles, have we done this as a Light Makes Right
Yeah.
moment?
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah,
you're,
yeah. No, you should totally do that.
so I was playing Thagrosh 1, Call of the Dragon, into Chromac 2, and he had the Storm Raptor, and I was like sending a lot of messages out and pictures of that game, and you were immediately like everybody was immediately like that Storm Raptor's just gonna fuck your day up, and I was like, well, I have a plan. I'm gonna
Yeah.
hex bolt it. I'm gonna shadow bind it. I'm gonna force it onto one heavy so I can beat it back, and then I'm gonna kill it. And that was like the plan, and it worked basically just like that. I lost all my hex hunters and all my incubi to all of his troop removal. I lost Zuriel, and the Chromac player was feeling really good about his feat turn. He was like in a really good position with Chromac. He was camping like 5, and I thought, okay, I can still dig out of this. And so I have Zuriel weaken the Thunderbird, whatever the hell it's called. I'm losing my train of thought now. And then
The
Typhon goes
lightning
in.
chicken. The
Yeah, the
lightning
lightning
chicken.
chicken.
Yeah.
Um,
Go hot.
Typhon goes in and hits him a couple times, and then I have Thags charge in, hit the Thunder Chicken, kill the Thunder Chicken, turn the Thunder Chicken into a cloud. Then I mutagenesis his Wayfinder, who is in the zone, and like jump way the hell across, and then feet Azrael back and basically behind his lines. And so I have all 3 of my heavies in this line in front of Thagrosh, and I'm also scoring, so the pressure's on him now, and he's like, that went sideways. I thought I was in a really good position, but so he tries to puke and
You
rally.
gotta add in like you teleported to the flag.
I teleported into the middle
Yeah.
of the zone for sure.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And it like I was set up in a position where I was dominantly scoring. It wasn't. It was like if you give me another turn, I'm going to be able to end my turn and win. And so he throws all of his heavies at me, and because of excessive healing on Typhon, doesn't get it through. And then I'm like, okay, Typhon is going in for the attacks, and I get a crit pitch halfway through, and I realize, oh, well, if I can just pitch Getorix out of the zone, I can win on scenario right now. So I pitch him out of the zone, and he's thinking, oh, there's no way you're going to kill me. He even says it out loud. He's like, there's no way you're killing Chromac 2. And I said, I don't have to. You're standing next to the objective. And so I charge behind him, and I poke the objective twice with Azrael, score that last point, and I go, I think that's it. And he looks at the table, he looks at me, he looks at the table, and he's like, that's 5 points, isn't it? And I go, Blight makes right.
Nice. All right, Manuel, thank you for joining me. For the viewers, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Blight Makes Right. We'll have more coming for you very soon. Lots of exciting tournaments and stuff right around the corner. It's going to be fun. Incubi for days. All right. Lights out.
Peace.